So the next standard that I'm using actually has the same artifact yet again. It is my test. Like I said before in the first video, I believe, I got all 4s on this test, so I figured why not use all of it if I got all 4s in the beginning. Clearly it proves that I know it. And this is the standard of RI6, determining word meaning, and in this standard I really didn't know how to determine a word. Well, I did know how to determine a word meaning, but I never knew how to tell people that I did. So within this little practice that we got for RI6, I learned how to do it, and yeah, so this is my proof. So here it is, RI6, determining word meaning. I got a 4 on it. So for the test, we got a quote. I believe this is from the beginning again, the beginning story that was in the last one. And you first find out what figurative language trick is used. Second, what does the quote mean? And third, what tone does the quote create? So if you were to read this quote, you would have to figure out what all of this stuff is, and to do that, I mean, it says, at the gates of the forest, a surprised man of the world is forced to leave his silly estimates of great and small, wise and foolish. Like, that really wouldn't make sense to me a semester ago, but now it does. I understand that it's a metaphor because he's using things as a comparison to his life without using the words like or as, so that's how I know it's not a simile. And what does the quote mean? I gave a lot of detail, and I went over each word pretty much of what it meant, and that's why I got a 4 on it. And for what tone it creates, I got a 4 because I was really detailed in what I put. Again, I mean, you can give a 4 on pretty much anything as long as you back it up with a great detail and stuff, and that's what I did. So, ta-da, there it is. So for my 5th artifact, I chose to do appositives because I really didn't even know what an appositive was. But now that I know, an appositive is a noun describing a noun and then glued together with commas. To prove even further with examples that I know what an appositive is now, after taking American literature, I have a sentence play. And the standard for appositives is actually L2A and L2B, if you want to be technical. So, yeah.
It depends on your brightness setting.
Do it again. So my first example states, Mariah, a woman of mental magnitude, wrote her essay easily. It is a good example of an appositive because Mariah, a noun, and then being described by nouns, a woman of mental magnitude, and then glued together by commas, it adds more information, so it makes the sentence a little bit more sophisticated. I guess you don't really need to put in a positive there, but if you can, I would suggest doing it because it really does make you sound smarter if you are going for that. My other example is kind of along the same lines, except it is kind of a riddle. It says, Rachel, a benevolent child, was kind and mild. So you can even use appositives when you're writing poems. I actually, after I know what an appositive is, I see them in my everyday life and I use them a lot too. So they are popular and you can use them in anything. I like them. Dashes. We see them everywhere. But do we really understand what they mean, what they do? I can honestly say before American literature, I had no clue what a dash was. And now I do. So, continue on and I'll tell you. So dashes, similar to commas, add detail, emphasis, will create emphasis, and also can bring up second thoughts. How I use it in this sentence of my story, The Adoption. It's our scary post story we did during Halloween, which I got a 4 on. One of the standards was to use an appositive and a dash. I used multiple, just in case, and to get the point across that I knew how to do them. It was 24 years ago today when they brought me into their lives. They made me call them Mommy and Daddy. Dash, it looked better to others. So I used the dash in this sentence to add detail and create emphasis. It looked better to others, not because they wanted him to call them Mommy and Daddy, but because it looked better to others. I could have just ended it there, but this gives more detail on why. Like, why would they want me to call them, or why would they want him to call him, or call them, say, like, Mommy and Daddy? It wouldn't make as much sense if I said just they wanted me to call them Mommy and Daddy. The second dash I used is, my real mom gave him to me when I was 3. Dash, when they adopted me, I had had him for 3 years. In this sentence, I am talking about the main character's real mom giving him his pet goldfish, Cyclops, when he was 3. And to add detail and kind of give away how old the character is without just saying he's 6, I said, dash, when they adopted me, I have had him for 3 years. So the fish is 3 and Samael is 6. So I used it to add more detail. The third the third dash I used was, our bond was strong. I brought him everywhere. So not only did I note that his bond was strong, but I gave an example. I brought him everywhere. But I connected it. I didn't think it was good enough to be like 2 sentences, so I connected it with a dash, so I added just a little more detail there to make it stronger. I believe my last dash was right here, and this was to create emphasis and add detail. It says, on the right there, I noticed Angelica's eyes, red and droopy. She was exhausted. So I could have ended it at red and droopy, and that probably would have been fine, but to just take it another step up and to create a little bit more of emphasis and give a little more of an example that she was exhausted. She didn't just look exhausted, she was. I added a dash and connected them. So yeah, I believe that I will be using up much more dashes in the future because now I know how to use them and I like using them.